Ladies and gentlemen, we're back today. We've got somebody I'm always happy to talk with. It's Matthew Brockmeyer from Murder Coaster Podcast. How you doing today, Matty?
I'm doing all right. Thank you very much.
You know, it's always good when you stop by. You know why? Just because we go away from the political stuff and we start talking about stuff that's a little bit more fun, which is death and ghosts and werewolves and true crime and everything like that. So happy to have you on. How's your week going?
Oh, the week's going fine. The holidays are coming in, so I don't know. Not my favorite time of year, to be honest, but you gotta like it.
They say it's the most wonderful time of the year, and I was like, "What are you, crazy? Summertime is the way to go." Some people are just insane, though. But so let me ask you this: we're talking about something that people maybe know about today. We're going to be talking about the Conjuring haunting, which was a movie, right? So take me through this.
Have you seen the film?
I have seen the film, but I don't remember exactly what it entails.
Well, it's about this family moves into this house and all kinds of supernatural things happen. And it's revealed that there's this 200-year-old witch, and she had lived on the land, and she had sacrificed babies to the devil. And she had been... her relative, she was from the bloodline of witches burned in Salem or hung in Salem, and there had been an inquest done on her, but through black magic, she got away with it. But then her husband caught her killing their newest infant to Satan, and she said, she swore her allegiance to Satan, ran out into the yard, put a noose around her neck, and leapt from a tree. And when she fell with her neck broken, her body turned to stone.
Whoa.
And this is in northern Rhode Island, and she was buried in a cemetery there. And now, because of that movie, all these people go to the cemetery and they fuck it all up. Her tombstone has been wrecked so many times, and it's 200-year-old tombstone that the Historical Society won't even put her tombstone out. And they've splashed red paint everywhere. They defaced the graveyard and caused all kinds of antics.
What would you think?
Why? Because she's a Satan worshiping witch. But guess what, Chris? Historians have looked into this. This woman was a completely innocent, innocuous Christian woman. She was absolutely not related to anyone who was hung in the Salem witch trials. There was never any inquest done. She never killed any baby, and she didn't commit suicide. She died of a stroke, and it's published in the papers, in her obituary. You can read her obituary. But how did this innocent woman get like this?
Good question.
Well, let's break it down.
Okay.
So the Conjuring haunting is based on the story of Roger and Carolyn Perron. And they were living in Rhode Island in a suburban neighborhood. And all this weird stuff happened. Their dog got hit by a car. Their neighbor had a heart attack, and his car almost ran into their house. And all the neighborhood kids broke into their house and beat their cat to death. It was like craziness.
Well, it just sounds like a bad neighborhood. I grew up in a neighborhood like that. Come on.
Right, and it's like the early 70s. It's like 1969, 1970, and kids back in the 70s were just crazy. And so they got 5 daughters, and they decided to buy this country house out on 200 acres out in Rhode Island. And apparently from the very first day, they were seeing the ghosts. And the old man who had owned the place, he gave them these keys, but they're like these old skeleton keys. I mean, and the place is cool. It's like all wrought iron latches and everything, but the keys don't even work. And he says, "No one will trouble you here." And he's got the chimneys all boarded up. So as soon as they move in, they're seeing ghosts and apparitions, but then they unboard the chimneys, which is a old thing about ghosts and chimneys. You know about that?
No.
Like at the Winchester house, a mystery there.
Okay. Yeah.
She added chimneys to the house that were not functional. There was chimneys with no fireplaces for the ghosts.
So it's
like an old thing.
That's the lady that built the Stairway to Nowhere.
Yes.
Okay.
It's a cool place. I visited it. It's really neat.
Huh.
But anyways, I'm just saying the chimneys are long thought to be a portal for ghosts.
Mm-hmm.
It's probably because they make weird noises, and they also drafts come through there. You know how they say when you feel cold, it's a ghost. And that's another thing. There's like parts of the house that are icy cold and they can't warm it, and there's swarms of flies coming. So she starts doing research and she discovers this witch named Bathsheba, and she meets this old historian who tells her, oh, Bathsheba was beautiful in her youth, but then she turned into an old hag and she starved her servants and all this. And she also, what she did was she went and it was called the Old Arnold Estate because it had been owned by a family named Arnold. And she finds all this stuff of people who have been murdered there and committed suicide there. But what she was really doing was just searching for the name Arnold in the local history archives and and it was Arnold. There was hundreds of different families named Arnold in the southern Massachusetts, northern Rhode Island area. And any tragedy that happened over 150 year period involving the name Arnold, she would say that it happened at that house with that person. But the truth is, none of these families are interconnected at all. There was a very famous case in southern Massachusetts, Prudence Arnold. She was an 11-year-old girl, and she had her throat slit. And it's actually like a very big true crime case at the time. And she says it happened there, and her ghost is there, but it happened in Massachusetts. It didn't happen in Rhode Island. And she just gathers all this content together and says all this. And now historians are like, well, who told you that? Who is this historian who told you that this witch Bathsheba starved her servants? And she like says some random name, and they're like, we've never heard of this person. And she's like, I saw an inquest paper about how she had murdered a baby. And they're like, where's this inquest? There's no papers, there's nothing. She had actually had a dog named Bathsheba that got hit by a car. And so she just found this spooky name and attributed all this stuff to this woman who is just like almost like a random pick just because of the name. Anyway, word of it gets out, and it comes out. Ed and Lorraine Warren come. You know who they are?
I heard about this. Are they the paranormal investigators?
Yes.
Okay.
And they are usually seen by most, including myself, as being absolute fraudsters, hucksters. They famously like went to the Amityville house and took a picture of their assistant turned out really spooky and weird, and said that it was a ghost and that this picture proved that ghosts were real, but it's obviously their assistant. You can see other pictures of him sitting around there, just like it caught his eye and his eyes are glaring and it's like out of focus. So it's a cool picture, but it's definitely their assistant. And like every case that they were ever involved in just about fell apart, arguing about money. And this one was no different. So the husband didn't believe in any of this shit. He thought it was all bullshit. But like the daughters were all into it. They thought the ghosts were friendly and cool, and they would like hang out with them and stuff. And it's just little kids' imaginations. And the mom claims that she'd been attacked. She'd been beaten with a coat hanger, and that a scythe had come down and tried to attack her. And so Ed and Lorraine Warren show up. The husband's like pissed that they're even there. Most of the time when they come, he just leaves. And they say the only way. And then Lorraine Warren says before she had a vision that yes, it was Bathsheba. She knew the name before the lady even told her the name. And it came in a vision. And yes, she had sacrificed babies. In fact, she had sacrificed a baby right there in their bedroom. Mm-hmm. And of course, this is what they call a hot read in the Carney world. Like these fortune tellers and psychics and stuff. You just like take clues from people, and it takes some smarts, and you use like little clues, and you gather up this information. And she had obviously heard the name Bathsheba. She didn't get it in a fucking vision. Give me a break. You know what I mean? And it's been proven this lady Bathsheba never stepped foot on this farmhouse unless they killed a baby in the bedroom. But they say they want to have a seance and the husband's adamantly against it. He's like, no, you're not gonna have a seance here. But the Warrens just show up with a fuckload of people, two carloads of people, all this recording equipment, and they somehow convince them to have a seance. They show up like unannounced and just like barge into the house. And they're like, we're gonna have a seance. And supposedly during the seance, like all kinds of creepy shit happened. And then Carolyn fell off her chair. And when she did, and of course they're like, the chair levitated in the air and shot out. Roger got so pissed that he punched Ed Warren right in the face, told him to get out of the house. And they left the house and never came back. And they didn't speak again for many years. And then the Warrens took the notebooks that Carolyn had written all her notes in, which is unfortunate because it's all, there's no, now not only is it like slander, but there's no like, you can't go back to the original sources. And they also, they had an agreement that they wouldn't talk about it, but they went and talked about it at lectures. And then all these ghost hunters and spooky freaks started showing up to the house and bugging them and stuff. And they had a huge falling out. And then it turned out that Roger had been cheating on Carolyn the whole time, which I personally think is one of the reasons that it all went down, because Carolyn was just like, she had anxiety, she had paranoia, she was depressed, and she just like fell into this thing of like trying to research this house and kind of making it all up, finding any article she could and saying it happened at that house when it didn't. And then they divorced, sold the house. A new lady moved in. She put a daycare in there, and she lived there happily for 25 years without a single disturbance. Nothing ever happened. But then all hell broke loose in the house.
What?
Because it wasn't ghosts, it wasn't demons, it wasn't goblins. It was the movie, The Conjuring.
Oh, yeah.
They make the movie, and like people just start flocking there. And this lady's been running a daycare there, and she didn't know what to do. And then she's like, I could never sell this house, blah, blah, blah. But she was wrong. These paranormal enthusiasts buy the house for $500,000. And guess what? The ghosts are back, baby. They start making TikTok videos, all this shit. And saying doors are opening, doors are closing. That the daycare was haunted, that they found like little kid drawings from when it was a daycare of like the lady with the broken neck, even though this lady definitely did not hang herself. It's slander to say she did, because she's a Christian and that would have put her in hell. You know what I mean? Like, anyway.
This isn't true crime. This is just like true grift.
Well, grift is crime.
Oh, that's true. Yeah, you're right.
And there's murder. It's fake. It didn't happen. Well, there is murder because, I mean, like, Prudence Arnold was murdered, but it had nothing to do with that goddamn house. You know what I mean? They're taking local true crime and trying to merge it all in there together like that. And she sells the house. They sell the house for $1.5 million to more paranormal people. So they made $1 million off their viral TikTok videos saying the house was haunted and stuff. And now it is for rent. You can go rent it and you can go stay in there. And just the other day, the barn caught on fire, which is really sad because the barn is 200 years old and has withstood all these like hurricanes and natural events.
And ghosts.
It didn't burn to the ground. I don't know how damaged it was, but it was built by a master shipwright. And it has like these huge ancient beams in it. So it's really sad that it caught on fire, because it is a historical, it's one of the first of the, those type of houses in Rhode Island, in the 1700s.
Yeah. But
if you guys want to hear more about all this stuff, we just covered it on our podcast Murder Coaster, and we have it's over an hour and a half, I think, of all the nitty gritty details. We go deep into it, and lots of quotes about all the ghosts, because they claim there was hordes of bats, and that the fly infestation, that these were the devil's pets come to watch them, and all kinds of fun stuff like that. And it's a bunch of bullshit, but it's super fun. I love it.
Well, you caught me by surprise today, because I thought it would be a true story to some degree, because we've covered, God, we've talked about new serial killers, older serial killers, and this one was complete fraud. Well, how disappointing. No.
Well, it's December, and it's the traditional time to tell ghost stories. December is.
It's true. And to keep things light and fluffy, since, the world is horrible enough this time of year. We try to keep it light.
It's light and fluffy, but at the same time, a graveyard being desecrated and a 200-year-old gravestone not even being able to, you can't put it out there because people will vandalize it. I think that's very sad.
Well, there you go.
I think it's kind of almost evil.
Plays into my whole narrative that I always push on this program, which is human beings are just absolute garbage on the most part. We got 1%, 2%, 3% maybe that's decent, knows how to, not desecrate an ancient Indian burial ground or whatever. most people, it slips their mind. They just want to be horrible. So,
Well, I'm a spooky freak, and I want to go there. And my co-host on our podcast, Murder Coaster, is from Rhode Island.
ooh,
Her book just came out, by the way, too. A fiction horror book called The Daughters of Block Island. It's already a huge Amazon bestseller. It's getting rave reviews. It's got over 1,000 reviews on Amazon. It's been reviewed by like Kirkus, gave it a starred review. Everyone's just absolutely loving it. So that's fun. But
cool.
so she wants to rent it and have a writers conference there for all the horror writers. And we'll all go out there and hang out there and maybe visit the cemetery, but do it with respect. Don't vandalize the goddamn cemetery. There's nothing wrong with loving spooky stuff. I mean, it's a lifestyle.
Yeah.
But you got to show some goddamn respect. Don't vandalize it. Don't deface a gravestone. Don't set the damn barn on fire.
Right. Some people just got no respect, no class. Well, and so honestly, some of the people that do most of the true crime horror people, they're all right. It's just the occasional nut bar.
I don't even think these are true crime horror people. I think these are like some kind of I don't know, obsessed with the occult more.
Or,
you know what I mean?
Yeah, paranormal or even spirit.
Yeah, paranormal.
Almost religious.
People, yeah.
You could almost call them religious and be like, well, there you go, right? That's the problem right there. They're one of these religious nuts.
Because true crime and horror people usually take it all with a grain of salt. You know what I mean? They're like,
but it is
oh, this is interesting. It's historical. It's fun. It's creepy. But it's, you know what I mean? It's probably
but it's real.
But
true.
Well,
but a lot of it is real, though. A lot of the horror and stuff.
Well, like serial killers and all that. Yeah. They're definitely very real.
When you start dipping into werewolves and stuff like that, it's harder to say that that's something that that could be a different demographic of people that are into that kind of shit. But
well, it's fascinating that people thought serial killers were werewolves in the Middle Ages. It's just werewolves obviously aren't real. But what's fascinating is that people couldn't find another way to explain these vicious crimes, so they would say, "Oh, it was a werewolf."
Yeah. You said vampire too. That was the same with the vampire.
Yeah, there's lots of vampires. I was just on another podcast, Crimes Killers Called Some Beer, and we did Peter Kürten. He's another German serial killer. You hear him?
No.
He's the one with the scissor. I think we talked about him before. He scissored people, but he was a full-on vampire. He would, he's a sexual psychopath, and he would like stab people in the throat with scissors and then like drink the blood till he started to vomit. That's how much blood he would drink. And he could only really orgasm with the sight of flowing blood.
Now that's when you really get your. Don't you have to have some kind of prerequisite or like first experience in order to find that sexually attractive, or you just are born that way, where you're just like, as soon as I was born,
I think it's both. So he grew up in a house where he watched his father rape his mother and his sister in front of him. They were like in almost like a 1-bedroom apartment and there's like, I don't know how many kids. I think there was 5 children and then the parents. And the father would come in drunk, beat the mother, rape her, raped his own daughter right in front of all the other kids. So he grew up watching that. That was his life. And then when he was really young, man, I'm trying to think, like maybe 12, he became best friends with the local dog catcher.
Uh-oh.
And the local dog catcher.
I don't like where this is going.
Yeah, you're not going to like it because they would like kill the dogs. That's what they did. And they would fuck the dogs and they would fuck the dead dogs. And it's incredibly disturbing. I mean, it's disturbing as disturbing gets. You really can't get much more disturbing than that story. But they eventually caught him. He killed a lot of people and they put him in the guillotine and chopped his head off. And then you know what happened? Some American soldier in World War II stole the head and brought it back to America. And now it's in a Ripley's, believe it or not, I think in Cleveland, Ohio. I might be wrong about that. It's someplace like that, like middle America, some like boring sounding city, but they've still got it, and it's on display, and you can
Who's
go look at
worse?
it.
Who's worse, the necrophiliac or the people that come to want to see the remnants of like necrophilia crimes and stuff? Who's the worst?
The necrophiliac's worse because I would go see it in a heartbeat. I want to see Peter Curtin's head. Wait, is that not a war crime? You stole a fucking decapitated head and brought it over how many borders, international borders, and brought it back? I think we owe Germany a serial killer head.
Yeah.
We need to take one of our serial killers and send the head over to Germany to be displayed.
What's right is right. Okay.
What's right is right.
You know. Well, send us one. You stole ours. You send me one. Okay, we'll call it even. I have no use for a decapitated head, really. But well, yeah. All right. Well, look, we did Cool 20. Come back next week, and we'll do something even more spicy. What do you think next week? What do you got?
Well, I don't know. It's kind of fun to recap. Like today, I was just recapping what we did in our last episode. So if folks are interested, definitely check out that episode because we go deep into it. Right now, we just did Lizzie Borden. She might be fun.
You also did Sid Nancy, didn't you?
Oh, yes, we did Sid and Nancy. We went deep. That was a two-parter. We've got hours and hours of everything you could ever want to know about Sid and Nancy, from their births to their adolescence and childhood, the Sex Pistols, the end of the Sex Pistols, and then we get deep into the murder of Nancy, trying to discover who did it. We go over the crime scene photographs. We go over all the interviews, police interviews, all the evidence, and then we get into, did Sid Vicious overdose or did he commit suicide? And we get deep into that as well. And there's actually a suicide note.
Interesting. Maybe we'll do that next week. Maybe
fascinating.
Maybe he was a CIA agent and he was assassinated. We don't know.
I kind of doubt that one, but who knows?
All right. Well, look, come back next week. We'll cover whatever you want. It's always a pleasure to have you. Look, Murder Coaster Podcast. Check him out. Anybody that's listening. Matthew Brockmeyer. He's a horror writer, wonderful human being. Anything you want to tell the folks before we go about Murder Coaster?
Oh, Murder Coaster, every week we bring you the most bizarre and crazy true crime, me and my co-host Krista Carmen, and it's a lot of fun, but it's also very educational. We deep research. Check it out. Thanks so much.
Yeah, there you go. All right, y'all, you be good to yourselves. See you in the funny papers. Bye-bye.